Welcome to another episode of Drew's College Athlete Spotlight. We are here, episode 26. I'm joined alongside Maddie Scharenbroch, a Division III volleyball athlete from the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point. Maddie, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're wrapping up school here. We're going to be talking here again about some club volleyball, right, in Wisconsin. What's going on with that at the national level as well? Kind of talking, right, how big club volleyball is. I didn't realize it was this big, and kind of going through, right, how you got to where you are today in volleyball, and kind of what you're looking at moving forward with that. So, ready to get started here?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so getting started, let's go. Let's go back to the past again. Maddie, you were a Valders graduate, going back to back to the hometown Valders. There, what sports were you originally playing? Right, whether it's like grade school, middle school, right, high school.
I did a whole lot of sports. I did cross country, volleyball, soccer. I did cheerleading at one point. I've done them all. But yeah, volleyball stuck with me the most.
And that's kind of what we want to talk, right? When did volleyball like start sticking? Like when were you starting? Did you start right in fifth grade? Were you doing camps like in elementary school? Do they do camps in elementary school?
Yeah, so at Valders, they did camps. I think I started maybe like second grade. And I did that all the way through fourth grade. I decided to do cross country my fifth grade year. And they have, it's not through Valders, it's this kind of league through all the schools that is with fifth and sixth grade. And my mom, she's never forced me to do anything before, but she has forced me to do volleyball. And I was really mad at her for making me do volleyball because I thought I was going to be a runner. And look at me now.
Oh, internet cut out a little here, but what we're hearing, right? Shout out Maddie's mom. Shout out Kim.
Yes, shout out Kim.
For sure. No, it's interesting with the camps and stuff. And again, like, I mean, I feel like volleyball in Northeast Wisconsin, let alone, like, I mean, like the middle school, high school, right? It's very competitive. I've had on here, what we've had on the show, Brett Damero before, right? With that, right? Is it the Fox? Is it the FC Elite? Is that what it is? Is that, I believe, just kind of
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
Howard's Grove, the dynasty
Yeah.
built there. Just talking, the big volleyball's big in
Yeah.
the area, and want to get kids involved early at a young age. So would you say, or what position were you playing back then? Or were you playing positions really?
So when you're younger, you don't really have like a position. You literally just rotate in the six. But then I tried out for Lakeshore Storm, which is a club team around the area. It's in Manitowoc. And I tried out for that when I was in sixth grade. And that's when I had my first position, which is the main position I played out through my whole life. So I was an outside hitter and a back row player. So an all around player, which was pretty cool.
I got you. When did you join that club team? I guess when do club teams start in Northeast Wisconsin?
It depends. I would say normally like fourth or fifth grade, that's when people really start joining clubs. So I started in sixth grade. Um, my mom again wanted me to join fifth grade, but I begged her not to let me do that. But she convinced me in sixth grade to club. What was my
Did
mic on?
you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, it just cuts out a
Yeah.
little bit. But okay, so start sixth grade Lakeshore Storm. Did you have any like teammates who brought you along, or was it really just the mom pushing it?
Well, beginning, my mom pushed it, and then I think I just loved the sport and I kept doing it.
And then did it come? Was it seventh grade where right you had to make like a decision because you said you were doing cross country? I guess did cross country, right? Did volleyball eventually
Yeah.
won out? Was seventh grade the year?
In seventh
Gotcha.
grade, I had to decide between cross country and volleyball.
And then volleyball won out, but then going to high school, right? Did you Did your focus mainly go into volleyball? Because I guess like doing club stuff with volleyball, doesn't it almost become year round?
Yeah, I would say it's basically year-round. So especially at Baldur's, our coach really pushed to have training really early. So we would start in spring doing like, well, no, I guess summer workouts, and we do a lot of conditioning.
So I think Maddie was talking about right doing conditioning with right starting summer year round. A lot of work on that. Maddie, can you hear me? Internet freezing. All right, looks like we have some technical difficulties here, but as Maddie was talking about, oh, she's no longer in the stream. So um, we'll wait and see if we can get her back. But yeah, as Maddie was talking about, a lot of time investment talking in volleyball. Um, Again, we've had on the Howard's Grove Dynasty talking with them about kind of what goes into volleyball and right. I mean, looking at softball, also right, it's sports where okay, right, you play usually one specific season, right? Seems it's always usually in the fall, right, for the high school, college, collegiate, right? But really with like softball and volleyball, really in both of them, you're playing year round, so a lot of time commitment, right? As Maddie was talking, right, those club teams you're playing spring, summer, you're investing a lot of hours into it, probably a lot of drives. We'll hopefully hear about some of the crazy drives or commutes for some of these because Maddie Lambert was a guest we had on who she talked about on weeknights was driving 3 hours for practice and games and moving forth that it was insane time on that. We'll see if we can get again Maddie back in here. So we'll see if we can get her back again, talking some volleyball with the club at the collegiate level. Uh, Again, waiting on that as we'll hopefully hear about the time commitment and the commute. All right, Maddie's back. Perfect. So we'll resume back here. I was just talking a little bit about right the experience with the club and whatnot. Oh, okay. There's she back. There she is. Hey, Maddie, how you doing? You're back. Good. Okay. Sorry.
Hello.
Apologize for technical difficulties. Maddie's back. Her. You can see we can see the internet part on hers. It's kind of fluctuating right now. So hopefully we can get it stable. There, we're good. I was talking kind of about crazy commutes with prior guests we've had. So I kind of want to tie that into your club experience you were talking. We've had Maddie Lambert told a story where she was driving 3 hours on weeknights for practices. I mean, was there any crazy commutes you've had with whether it was a tournament, practice?
I would say definitely tournaments were like the crazier commutes. The reason why we picked the club that I went to was because it was close. It wasn't like super far away, especially when like my mom was the one who had to drive me around. It's really hard on like one parent to commute a lot. But tournaments, we've had some pretty crazy tournaments. When I was in high school, the longest I drove was to Indianapolis for nationals. Um, so yeah, you can drive pretty far, and the tournaments are pretty. I would say 3 to 4 hours away from where we are typically. The closest ones are like Green Bay. We don't get those very often. So
Those would be a lot nicer to have. I recall you were talking about like some of the crazy like Indianapolis, for example. When we get to the college side, talking about those national experiences. Looks like the internet's good to go here. Now it's working nicely, so that's good to see. But with
Go
I
ahead.
was also touching on like the fact, right? Volleyball is it's basically a year-round sport. To an extent, you could theoretically play volleyball year-round. I was talking kind of how it relates to softball in that manner.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. And even if you go crazy, you can play these summer tournaments, the grass tournaments. I'm kind of getting into those now. The older I get, a lot of my friends in college like to play grass, so there's tournaments that you can go to play. So basically, play year round.
yeah, shout out Trent Persinger. He's gonna have a big summer. It is the comeback after that his injury. He's coming back
After
110%,
his injury. Yeah.
um, for sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, club volleyball sounds right, insane. Great experience, I'm sure. Level of competitiveness. Did you prefer playing
Oh,
in the club setting compared to high school, or was there just something special about playing high school ball?
I would say when it wasn't COVID, high school was very special, especially junior year. I bet Drew kind of remembers that. That was a very special year for volleyball. Um, I don't know. I've always really liked club. I like the early mornings, waking up, driving there, which is kind of weird, but a whole day affair.
Yeah, I think Visco night was the top. If we look at volleyball junior year.
Yeah,
Um,
every year my Snapchat memories, your turtle poster.
what I had to fit the role. Um, And I went all out for Visco night. There's nothing wrong with that. No, it's certainly great theme nights for volleyball
Mhm.
for sure. No banana was worn, unfortunately, for um, for
That
volleyball
is
though.
very unfortunate.
Yeah, but high school was great experience. You guys had great teams. Was there a favorite moment in specific? You'd say?
When we won conference, that was very, very cool. Very cool for the school that I think it was like 29 years since we won conference. So it felt very, very special to be a part of that.
Yeah, some good teams right in the EWC for volleyball. So it was kind of like, wow, really good feat, right? Chilton seems to be usually good keel, somewhat right. Um, like some of those other bigger schools in the
Chilton that
conference.
year was like Chilton and Holstein and
Yeah,
Brilliant were really, really good that year.
so being able to win those, and then right there's just tough teams in the area. When I say that, talking more high school. Of course, we talked about Howard's Grove, but like Luxembourg, Casco, right? Always a good tough program. And then some of those bigger schools in the Green Bay area, you get like the Little Shoot, you get Menasha, some of those bigger ones. It's a tough area it seemed, and right, you guys being able to advance there, losing eventually to it was Luxembourg, Casco, right?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't even remember,
My
but
memory
I'm pretty
serves
sure it
me
was
right.
Luxembourg
I
Casco.
believe it
They were
was
very good.
that. I was there.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah,
would you
you were.
say okay?
They
So
were very,
then,
very good.
teammate or coach the shout out in high school / club before we kind of transition here to the college side.
I feel like two very integral ones. So my club coach, Jerry and Katie, they were very big on helping me learn to love volleyball even more. And my high school coach, Pam, she taught me a lot about volleyball and really showed my love for the sport that I kept playing, kept working hard, and she really did push me to be a good player. And I learned a lot from her.
Awesome stuff. Okay, I want to talk like college recruiting side. Were you like so? Right, you talked about this club, right? Exposure to club. You were working with right, coach from Valders, Pam, and then also you were getting all conference accolades and such. Were you looking at playing at the college level? Were there schools reaching out? Yep.
I personally, there was a couple of schools that I like got emails from, and Pam was wanting me to kind of play in college, but personally, I didn't want to play in college. That wasn't the path that I wanted to take.
Okay, so then transitioning there, right? So you don't have interest in playing college. You could have, right? I mean, in a sense where you were getting reached out and whatnot, but um, going then to Stevens Point, right, and then being there, I guess, how do you get involved then where you are in a club with a club team that's highly competitive, playing at national conferences?
So at UW schools basically have a club volleyball team. Some are bigger than others, some are more developed. And when I was just looking at schools, I was just like looking around on their Instagrams and like what different clubs they offer. I wasn't even necessarily looking for volleyball. And at one point, I wanted to go to Eau Claire, and I just saw the UW Eau Claire club volleyball page. And I thought that was really cool. And I kind of looked into it. And then when I decided to go to Stevens Point, I looked if they had a club team, and they did. So that was kind of my first exposure to club. It was just kind of my interest, and so playing somewhat competitively.
But you had ambitions to continue playing, maybe not at the NCAA level, but rather like the collegiate, right? Still doing the outdoor tournaments you were talking about. Hopefully with Trent Persinger, star volleyball player. But
Yeah,
oh,
hopefully.
okay. So then you joined last year, right? Is that something you have to? Right? I mean, there's tryouts, and then isn't there 2 teams? If I'm correct.
Yeah, there's 2 teams.
So do you feel right, and then you try out, and then you get placed in a team, and then kind of just you guys playing some games, you practice, you have practices, and then tournaments, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we try out. Before tryouts, we just have open gyms, where we just get back into volleyball. So that starts basically the first week of school. We have tryouts around October. You decide if you're on the ones team or twos team. You go to national team, you do, but you have preseason tournaments for semester, and second semester you have actual season tournaments.
Okay, and it cut out a little bit. Ones, if I'm correct, right? The ones team is the one that's going to nationals. Okay, so yeah, ones. So there's 2
Yes.
teams. There are ones and twos, and then the thing that I was wondering: do you have opportunities, the ones team, to help maybe out the NCAA team if they need, if they scrimmage? Do you guys ever scrimmage them? Is there opportunities there?
Well, actually, it happened this past semester. One of their setters got injured, and they were having spring training. So I actually was brought up. I guess I was considered a practice player, but I was brought up, and I practiced with the our actual team for I think 4 or 5 times until their setter got back into it.
So some good opportunity there too to maybe show if you don't even if you have ambitions or not to play at the NCAA level, you're able to help out the college team. So um, I guess with the club, I was wondering more on like training/practice side. So kind of my question stems, from high school, right? You have the training, right? Whether it's summer, you have some open gyms and whatnot before practices in season. Is there some? Is it similar, right? In the college sense, I guess how often do you guys practice and just kind of like the training intensity? How is that?
We practice about 2 to 3 times a week, and they're about 3-hour
Oh,
practices, and they can range from starting at 7 o'clock at night to starting around at 11 o'clock at night. So, but typically around 3 hours we practice.
and then like feeling from like high school, whether it's the club in high school or just high school volleyball, right? With the school, do you feel like that the transition was proper, right? Are these practices more intense? Do you feel or
Um, I think these practices are very similar to my club experience, not high school experience. It's more, I feel like we know the skills, so just working as a team and doing more team-based practices and in-action game type drills.
gotcha? So um, with that, like coaching wise, do you have someone who's guiding you in these drills? Is there like a head coach or is it like players like
So
do you
that's
know what
the
I mean?
different thing with club in college. Did I? Okay, I'm sorry if I cut you off. But that's the different thing in college, at least at Stevens Point. I know some other schools they do have coaches, but we don't really have a coach. This year we did have a girl who played last year kind of coach us, but it's not to what it was in high school or even club in high school. We kind of really direct ourselves, and we kind of coach each other and help each other out, and we make our own lineups as a team.
So do you feel like, especially on the club side, like would you prefer to have a coach, or do you feel like how it's turned out? Is it something where like you feel like the team dynamic, you feel like kind of the culture there is boosted without having a coach?
I think there's pros and cons to both. I think it's always nice to have a coach just because you always have someone who's impartial. Like they're not the ones on the court trying to play. Um, but I think like we do keep ourselves really accountable and it's really fun. And I think a lot of other club teams do as well. So there's pros and cons to both sides.
Yeah, because I've like, of course, right. It's a club team, so you'd figure they probably right. They might not have a coach, right? It's a club team, but I mean, with a club team that is as competitive, right, as volleyball, where you're going, right, you're playing in nationals places. You guys went to Arizona last year, correct? And then you go to
Yeah,
Kansas
we
City
did.
this year, I believe. So like, just kind of like traveling them out in places. It's interesting, you guys. I didn't know if you all had a coach or not, but I just feel like, especially a sport like volleyball, where there might be some strategic substitutions, like basketball, for example. It's interesting to not have a coach and kind of that dynamic. So really, really interesting fact to know. Is there? I had a question with furthermore on the training side. Do you guys implement like some sort of strength training? Right? Is that kind of in the routine, or is it more of just those practices? Right, 2 to 3 times a week.
We do like some conditioning type things during practice, but we don't like make anyone strength train on their own. It's not like a requirement to be on the club. It's not something we do within practice. A lot of our girls do it on their own, but not like through the club.
Gotcha. I didn't know if there's any sort of accountability at that and on the strength side, but yes, for sure it seems you all right, practice wise, team culture wise. But touching on team culture, going to nationals, you want to start last year in Arizona, right? Because this is your second year, right, wrapping up at UW Stevens Point. So year one, going to Arizona, was overall that experience, right? I guess first, how do you all do, and then second, like, did you feel it was a great experience for the team, right? The culture, and then just representing UW Stevens Point.
Last year was a really cool experience. We did very good. I would say personally, I think we were in the top 8 in the whole tournament. And we actually beat the team who got second place at the tournament the day before. So it's a 3-day long tournament that we play. Um, and this just shows how competitive our Wisconsin club team is, because the two teams that played against each other at nationals were Eau Claire and La Crosse.
Wow.
So we play in a very, very tough conference, and but we held our own at nationals, and like team camaraderie, like it was amazing. We have a guys club team, and we would cheer for each other. We would go like hang out in Arizona, do fun things, but it was a really, really great experience.
Yeah, and kind of one of the big themes here today is just that. I mean, men's and women's collegiate club volleyball is not no joke, right? Whether it's in Wisconsin or right nationally. You talked about right, Eau Claire and La Crosse being two teams making the championship game last year, and then literally on the website right now. I mean, right, there's live streams. There's a lot of tournament information. There's a lot of you know. I mean, there's a lot of content on this site. Again, it's no joke. You can attend it. It's Baller TV. It says you can stream the games, so just a lot of
Yeah, you
advantages,
can
right?
stream the game.
Attending this, and probably a good thing too, right? Is there college scouts there, like recruiting potentially for people who want to make the leap from club to you know NCAA?
Um, I don't know if there's like officially ones, but I do see a lot of like coach like figures with notepads walking around taking notes. If that means that there are scouts, I'm not 100% sure, but that's typically, at least when I was in high school and club, that's what that meant. Like people kind of walking around with notepads, watching games, taking notes. So I did see some of that. Yeah.
For sure. Good. So going like to year two, did you feel right? So leap. I guess my first thing, before we go from year one to two, was kind of talking about the leap from whether it was high school club or high school, right? Varsity volleyball, the leap from that to club volleyball into college. Is there a big leap? How big is the leap?
Um, I would say it's more competitive than how I played in varsity, like in high school and in club in high school. personally my team feels more competitive. And how I kind of look at club, it's a lot of girls who had the potential to possibly play at the college level, and that didn't want to, or could have, but they couldn't have the school that we played at. So it's very talented girls, and the other clubs within our conference, so like Eau Claire, Lacrosse, there are some very, very talented girls that get recognition throughout the whole NCVF, like got all state at our nationals tournament. So it's very, very, I think it's tougher competition.
That sounds great, right? Good competitive, and right, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's people who want to play, right? Who still want to compete. But then going from year 1 to 2 for you, did you feel right like you had some seniors leave, right? Did you feel like leadership wise, right? It's your time to step up, and now again here, year 2 to year 3 coming up here, right? Do you have full intentions to play, and then just back on the leadership side, do you guys have like captains or?
Yeah, so we have a board. So I was vice president this year of the board. Um, that way, yeah, I definitely took more of a leadership role this year. My freshman year, I was very nervous, timid. I kind of was in the setting position that I have played before, but not fully a setter. So it was new to me in some sort of way. But definitely my like this year, my sophomore year, I really stepped up in my like I personally think in a leadership role. I've done a lot of things behind the scenes or helping the presidents out, so I really understand more of the inner workings of what club is.
So do you have intentions then? Right, that's great. Right, being able to assume a leadership role in right volleyball, it's still a club slash organization at the end of the day, right? I mean, so right, there's still work that has to be done, whether right the fundraising, the leadership, organizing events. I'm sure because again, you guys don't have a coach or a manager per se. So do you feel right? You move into year 2, year 3. Are you going to be vice president again? Is there a new position?
We're not really sure exactly yet. We kind of vote in the summer. But
Gotcha.
our ultimate goal is to eventually, we have a fifth year senior coming back, who was the president. So as of right now, kind of our goal is just kind of teach me all the ways, but really work together with the president, have even a bigger step or bigger role than I did last year. So not everything's set in stones yet.
Gotcha. I got one more question here before we kind of move into the education side. Right, we still got to talk about that. So how is like summer? So you talked about like the elections are in summer and whatnot, but does the communication end up being in the summer? Is there still that level of accountability with that?
Yeah, it's via email or Snapchat. We have like a big Snapchat group with all the girls in the whole club process, and we send out surveys to see what people are feeling, like what's the best way to contact them. So we still get very like good outreach in the summer.
Awesome. So that must be good for right for team culture too, right? You have a close group probably of girls, right? If you guys are going to Kansas City again this year, so different place, and just being able to spend time with those people a lot of hours a week. If you mentioned it could be just 9 hours of practice alone, right? Plus games.
Yeah, plus tournaments. So we drive to the different schools for our tournaments, and we play together the whole day, plus our practice. So it's a lot of time with these girls.
A lot of time, but right for the love of the game, as they say. So I want to hear about the education side. Right, again, we can't forget that. So, what's your major at Stevens Point? Let's hear about it.
I'm double majoring in elementary and special education.
And then the long term career goal with that.
Um, I want to start teaching right away, ideally in a general education classroom. But I think as of right now, a long-term goal is to be in administration in some sort of way, so possibly a principal. But that's long term.
No music background anymore. I mean, I knew the early education,
No,
but I thought there was. Aren't you?
yeah, I dropped that. It's a big major. They have to do a lot.
Weren't you? Were you ended up not being a drum major, were you? Yeah, you were.
I was senior year, yeah, but it was like
You were.
COVID, so like kind of.
Yeah, that's why it was weird.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Wow. No more music long term, I guess. No jazz band?
No,
The saxophone is
no
hung
jazz
up?
band. Maybe I'll make my own. Maybe I'll make my own jazz band.
Yeah, there you go. You can get some of the great music teachers from Valders to help arrange this, and you got your trombone slash baritone player here, so
Correct.
no worries on that. Okay, I got one more thing here, and then we'll wrap this up. You got to shout some college people. You shouted out the people from Rachel, right? Pam Erickson got the shout out, and then your club coaches. Who are we shouting out in college? Whether it's players, coaches, roommates, whatever.
I'll start with my roommate just because she has to deal with me coming in at sometimes 1 or 2 in the morning, taking
Yay!
a shower and coming back. Probably wake her up. Yeah, go Elise. Woo!
Shout out Elise. Woo!
Thank you for dealing with this. Yeah, shout out Elise.
Yeah.
Just I would say, yeah, all my teammates, they're amazing. I've learned from each and every one of them, especially all the girls who are in a leadership position. They were all awesome. They taught me a lot, have changed me, not as a volleyball player, but as a person as well. So I love them all so much.
Awesome. So teammates, whom well not you have no coaches to show. I don't know why I said coaches. We talked about that, but roommate, there you go, Elise, and then also right the teammates
Yeah.
that you've been with and you'll continue to be with here, whether the summer tournaments, whatnot. And then yeah, my last thing here is I got to bring up Trent again. You better go win some tournaments with Trent. If Jared asks to be on your team, say no. That's my other tip.
Is that coming from you, Drew?
That's coming from me. You can let him know that. Just tell him no.
Okay. No,
But
try and I'll win some tournaments.
good. And then I guess do you guys have a club page? Right? Do you want to shout it out? Is there a way we can find this club page? Because this is right for college. This is some really good stuff.
We do. If anyone's ever interested in just like club in general, no matter what school you're going to, it doesn't have Stevens Point. You can look up the WVC on their webpage or their Instagram. They have some great information. But for our club page, it's uwsp.womens.club.vb.
Awesome. So that's where we'll find them. And again, this episode will actually be talking scheduling before we wrap up. This episode's actually going to be airing officially next week. We're live on YouTube, of course, here. Now I'm going to be in Vermont on a finance economics trip. So I'll be on that and I want to bring some content along. So Maddie, well, again, you'll hear this. If you're listening on YouTube, right? You'll hear this officially. We'll be live next week on that. So anything else from you, Maddie, before we wrap up here? Nope.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Wish you the best academically and athletically here. And let's wrap it up here. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Drew's Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.